Leader doesn't want to talk about the economy.
Well, a lot of women who actually vote more than men do want to talk about the economy.
More of you.
And they actually, they control a lot of the purse strings in many households. They make a lot of the financial decisions.
They run our show. And both producers, women. It's great.
That's fantastic. And the economy, turns out, bad news for everyone, men and women. It's worse. Almost since the end of the recession in 2009. The GDP numbers came out yesterday. Yeah. There was no growth. In fact, it was going down.
Yeah, it shrank for the first time since the recession, although the recession, technically it ended, but for a lot of Americans, it feels like we're still in the midst of it. This is bad news. Some people said, well, it's unexpected. How could it be unexpected? All you got to do is look at what's about to happen. We're about to decimate the national security. There's a possibility that 1.2 million security jobs could be lost in this country, plus all the regulations placed on businesses with the Affordable Care Act. It's shocking that the number isn't worse, but Jay Carney doesn't blame George Bush this time. That's good. He just blames the Republicans in general in the Congress. Listen to this.
Our economy is facing a major headwind, which goes to your point, and that's Republicans in Congress. This is sort of political brinksmanship of the kind that results in one primary victim, and that's American taxpayers, the American middle class.
You know, the Fed projected what our economy was going to be like today. Let's go back to 2010. He said, Ben Bernanke, growth in 2012 will be 3.5%, and then it's going to go up to 4.5%. Ends up being 2.2%, and now we're going in the wrong direction. What flies against this is unemployment 7.8%. We've gotten used to that high number, but it hasn't budged. And the stock market is going high, and yet consumer confidence is on the downside. But the president's approval rating is 60%. It's like he's impervious to numbers.
The president's approval rating is up. The stock market is up because the Fed is pumping all this dough every month, billions and billions of dollars into the economy. And the unemployment number, you know, it's just under 8%, but it would be much higher if you factored in all the people who simply said, I can't find a job, we give up.
So I asked the question last hour, you know, why do you think the president remains impervious to much of this bad news? And some people had different thoughts on Twitter and email. Some people said that it's because, you know, a lot of people now are in situations where they're receiving government handouts, and so they like to see a president in power who believes in continuing to do those types of programs. There were a lot of other thoughts. You can keep emailing or Twittering me on that. In the meantime, Senator John Thune, a Republican, tweeted this yesterday. White House press secretary blames GOP for economy while pushing higher taxes. What planet do these guys live on?
Listen, there's a reason so few people have focused on the economy, and currently it's dismal right now when you look at the GDP, and that is the mainstream media will not talk about how bad it is. It's the same thing in the run-up to the election. The number one story affecting the most Americans, the economy, but instead, what do we get? We got 47%.
War on women.
We got war on women. We got the binders. We got everything except what really matters, and that is when you keep your eye on the prize with finances, it's the economy. And just now we're catching up number-wise.
I agree with that. However, I do believe that people have their own responsibility to look at their own pocketbooks and figure out whether they're fuller or if you have less money in them. And that should affect the way...
Apparently they don't care.
Well, I don't know, but that should affect... They've always said that should affect the way in which you vote. This time around, it's a bit of an anomaly. People will write books about this for years on end, how the popularity of this president remains so high, and yet the economy remains relatively dismal.
I remember Neil Cavuto sat down with President Bush, and the economy was going so well, but the war was going so bad, and he said, you know, Mr. President, the economy's going so good, but no one's paying attention to it because of the war. Meanwhile, we asked you that question, why is the president's popularity so strong? Why is the president's popularity...
You want to hear from Drew?
So strong? When, well, the economy's so bad, he says, the answer is, tell the people why long enough, and they'll believe it. Charlie says, you ask why Obama's ratings are so high? Ever heard the saying, don't shoot Santa Claus if you do not work? I never heard that phrase. If you do not work, you had an increase in payroll deductions. If you're illegal, you have the same rights as legal citizens, and now everyone is going to be granted legal status.
Plus, Scott says, easy, it is because he hands out welfare like we hand out candy to kids at Halloween, groceries, cell phone, gas, house, TV, and other things you can think of without having to put an effort to get off the couch and get a job. Why not like...